I suspect many of you, like me, find that playing games of 40k can get a little overwhelming. If you're new to 40k, chomping through the primary mission, the secondary mission, the mission rules, objectives, table layouts, terrain layouts, deployment zones, and your entire new faction, its detachment, and all of its unit rules, well, it may all get a bit overwhelming. If, on the other hand, you've played a lot of 40k, like me, and you're not to feel like you've got a massive hangover after playing a simple game, well, we may need to have a bit of a chat. Because boy howdy, do I have something for you. A few months back, a friend and I had both started new armies. Mine the Drakari that I've painted on the channel, and he the Flesh Tearers, the vampiric successors of the Blood Angels. We both arranged a game, but with a twist. He'd recently reacquired his 3rd edition Warhammer 40,000 rulebook, which sparked many warm, fuzzy, grimdark feelings for both of us, and an idea. Why not play a small-scale mission of 1,000 points using one of the missions from the 3rd edition book? Which we did, and had a pretty good time of it. I mean, it was horribly unbalanced. We had to distribute the objective markers face down, one at a time, across the board in locations of our choosing, and have units search for the single actual true objective, which was the only point-scoring location on the board. Whoever's side of the board the objective marker landed on had an insane advantage when it was found. My friend found the objective first, and I had to keep throwing my poor dark space elves towards their inevitable decline. But still, it felt weirdly fresh, and I came away from the game not feeling the need to quaff ibuprofen, despite being wiped from the entire table.
Here, take 2 of these.
Ah, new print. Little, yellow, different.
This got my brain whirring, and I began developing a system I've since dubbed Quickplay 40k, a way to get your games to the tables fast in 3 simple steps. First is the board setup. Figure out your board size. 44 by 30 inches for a 1,000 point game, or 60 by 40 inches for a 2,000 point game. Then select a deployment and objective layout from one of the following 4 grids. These can be scaled to either board game sizes. The grids are 4 by 4 rectangles, so you just need to divide the length and the width by 4, with all of the objective markers going on the intersections of the rectangles. Second, get terrain placed. For terrain, you actually get to play a bit of a mini-game. Select any amount of terrain you want, using terrain pieces you have, or an accoutrement from around the house. Then divide the terrain into 2 groups of equalish size.
I'm seeing double here. 4 crusties!
And make sure you have equalish looking pieces. I found about 4 to 5 pieces each for a 1k game works well, and 6 to 7 for a 2k game. Then have players put an equal amount of dice into a bag, the total being the total amount of terrain that will be used. Roll off to see who pulls a dice out of the bag first, and then start taking dice out of the bag. If the dice is your color, you get to place a piece of terrain. Finally, select a mission. All that's left to do is draw a main mission for you both, with whoever was the last person to place a terrain drawing first. There's 4 to choose from. The following 3 are scored at the end of the game. The first is Defend Stronghold. Hold the objective in your deployment zone. The second is Capture Enemy Outpost. Take your opponent's objective in their deployment zone. Third is Secure No Man's Land. Hold the majority of the objectives in No Man's Land. Finally, there is Assassination. Kill the opposing player's general, which can happen in any round. For scoring your games, you score 1 victory point for each objective you hold at the end of your turn, and 5 victory points if you score your main mission. As stated earlier, assassination can be scored in any turn, whilst the other 3 can only be scored at the end of your round 5. These missions should come from the same deck, so you'll never share the same mission as your opponents, keeping that element of asymmetry. For example, we shuffle a deck of 4 different cards, and if you have access to the Leviathan or Pariah Nexus decks, you can just take out the 4 relevant secondary mission cards from there. As I was the last person to place a piece of terrain, I draw first and get Assassination. My opponent draws Defend Stronghold. Then roll off 4 deployment. Then for who goes first, and have at it. Everything else works with the main Warhammer 40,000 rule set. And it's as simple as that, really. Now you might be looking at this and thinking, Pluckee, what have you actually changed here? Well, for a start, a bunch of the mission-related stuff. It keeps things focused on your main mission, and you'll be scoring points as you go. This means you don't need to keep switching between a new mission each turn if you're playing the current tactical mission set, or having potentially 2 diametrically opposed missions if you're playing fixed. If you're new to 40k, you get to focus on learning general mechanics. And if you're a tournament player, you can learn a new army and how the models work. And for both, you don't have to worry about which secondary you're picking this turn, or not playing with particular models because they have to stay in reserve to be used to score a secondary mission that might not ever show up. Secondly, terrain. Modern 40k games often require equal and exact placements of terrain, but with Quickplay, there's no need to worry about this. What you're more concerned with is placing terrain in a way that will kind of actually benefit you or inconvenience your opponent. For example, if you place a piece of terrain in your opponent's table quarter to block their ability to hide their models, you risk losing placing a piece of terrain on your side of the field. So it becomes a finely tuned game in that sense. Finally, I've purposefully not done anything on changing any units or how anything else works in that regards. Certain units interact with things like objective markers, and everyone in 10th edition has an objective control value. This keeps things focused on the main interactions of how your units work, removing a lot of the other mental load whilst you develop your working knowledge of how your brand new army works. Also, as an addendum, this is for games outside of the Combat Patrol system. Combat Patrol has its own rule set going on, and this is for when you want to go outside of the current Combat Patrol system. Now, I haven't created this to be entirely definitive. I would actually describe this more as a framework for playing some quick, fun games. I've taken a lot of inspiration from other game systems. The deployment zones are straight from Age of Sigmar. The dice out of the bag mechanic is straight from Bolt Action, and in fact, the simpler main mission is straight from Warhammer 40,000's own past, 2nd edition. Please feel free to add suggestions, remove stuff, pop in new missions, add different deployment zones, whatever. And also, I'm not trying to slant the current mission deck system in Warhammer 40,000 or competitive play either. The current deck style mission set is a fun game system, and one that I still play in gaming sessions. As of recording, I played the current Pariah Nexus game set yesterday. I have also played competitive Warhammer 40,000 before, and I currently play Warhammer the Old World competitively. However, as I mentioned at the outset, I have found myself walking away from games of 40k in the recent past with a giant headache, and it's been a common cause of complaint from friends. I'm also aware that there's a good bit of dialogue of people complaining that there is no flavour in 40k, or that 40k has lost its soul. And I just don't think that that's the case. The current detachment system is fantastic. The Grotmus calendar really shows the strength of the system. Just for anyone who thinks I'm trying to tear the way they play apart or something, I'm not. I'm just trying to find a solution to a problem I think a lot of people have. Warhammer and tabletop wargaming isn't like video games, where you have to sign some hazy, barely understandable service agreement that forbids you from amending and modding your games.
Hello, Editing Pluckee here. I just want to kind of expand on that point very briefly. I'm aware that modding and such exists, It's more, you're not necessarily able to go and change how a game plays per se, or change kind of the base code a lot of the time. So yeah, that's more what I meant. Thanks.
Clipping up bits, customizing and crafting whole new things is actively encouraged. And this applies to rule systems as well. As I said earlier, I think amending armies and units probably goes a bit too far when everyone's trying to play on the same page. But the missions and maps, I think you should absolutely go at it. As I said before, feel free to take this system and adapt it. If you don't like it, that's also fine. If you think there are some ways to improve it, then let me know in the comments below. I'd love for other people to give this a try and let me know what they think.
Yeah, so I was in the edit and I kind of realized I wasn't really smiling all that much and I looked really serious. So I just wanted to sign off and say thank you so much for watching. And yeah, please give us a like, comment, subscribe, but you know, all of the stuff. It really, really helps out the channel. And thank you so much for watching the start of this whole thing. Anyway, I super appreciate it, and have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever it is you celebrate at this time of year. And I'll see you probably next year. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.